Hi, everyone. I just thought you'd like to see what's going on behind me. Polly's waiting for something, and Richard's lighting me a fire because it's just one of those evenings. As you can see, the light's really different in here tonight. It's a lot darker. It's a bit gloomier. It's a lovely night for a fire. It's a lovely night for a glass of red wine. It's been just delightful to hear all of your comments over the week. I've had a few emails from people with pictures of me on screens of computers in front of glasses of wine, which is always lovely. I had a chat to some of the people that I dropped wine off to in Melbourne yesterday, who are all very interested in hearing various different things about what's going on here at Moorooduc, and particularly I wanted to have a little shout out to Priscilla. Hi, I hope you're watching tonight. Priscilla has been tasting with Meredith and Sarah with us for the last few weeks. And Priscilla wanted to know a little bit about the history of Moorooduc, and I forget that not everybody knows where we came from and who we are and all those kind of things. So I thought it would be, thank you, Richard, very much for the fire. So let's get a glass of wine organised first of all. We're drinking Pinot Noir, so I've chosen my Pinot Noir glass today. Hello, Craig. Cheers. We're drinking the Devil Bean Creek Pinot Noir, which I think is a lovely wine to drink on a cold, almost winter's night. But if you're tasting up in Queensland, like Peter and a few other people who have also emailed me, then I think it's also a lovely wine that works really well in slightly warmer weather. So it's very versatile. Let's get some in the glass, and I'll tell you a tale of Moorooduc Estate. So my parents bought this property when I was a wee girl of 10, I think, in 1982. So now you know how old I am, all of you people who are good at mathematics. They bought the property in 1982. We'd been living in England for 4 years, and my father was a surgeon at the time, a junior doctor, and finished his training in England, and also had always been interested in wine and fell in love with the idea of planting some vines and having a vineyard when we were overseas. And we came back in 1980, and he started looking around, and he'd been out of the country for 4 years. And in that 4 years, from 1976 to 1980, there'd been a huge shift in the wine industry in Victoria. And when he went away, there was nobody growing any fruit or making wine really down here on the peninsula. I think there were maybe 2 vineyards that had been planted. Algie Park and Moorooduc Estate had been planted. They weren't producing fruit yet by then. Okay, drink the 2018 Garden Vineyard Pinot. It'll be delicious. So when Dad went away, and also the Yarra Valley really hadn't re-established itself as a wine region, so there was nothing around Melbourne as far as grape growing or winemaking, and there was no cool climate viticulture in Australia back then. So he was planning for 4 years, thinking, how am I going to get Jill to move to Sydney so we can buy a vineyard in Hunter Valley or maybe up around Rutherglen or something like that. Kieran, lovely to see you signing in from sunny Bahrain again. It's always nice to see you. And when we got back in 1980, everything had changed. The Yarra Valley was doing really interesting things, and there was this little wine region called the Mornington Peninsula that was just starting up. Dad met a few people, got some advice, talked to a lot of people, did a lot of research, and in 1982 he found this property. It was an empty paddock. It's a 20-acre property, and now we have 12 acres of vines planted, and that's fully planted. We lease also 4 other vineyards around the area. 3 of those vineyards are within 5 kilometres of our vineyard, and the other vineyard is a little bit further to the south. We would love to be able to buy more vineyards, but land down here is very expensive, and growing grapes and making wine is not ever wildly profitable. And it's expensive to grow grapes and make wine down here. There's a lot of work that needs to be done by hand, and human labour is expensive and all of that sort of thing. So anyway, luckily for us, we have some friends who also planted vineyards in the 80s and early 90s, and who decided after a while that they didn't want to make their own wine anymore. And that's how we now lease the garden vineyard. It's a beautiful established vineyard. It's how we lease part of the Robinson vineyard. We talked about the Robinson wines for a couple of tastings in past weeks. And also the fruit that goes into this Devil Bean Creek Pinot Noir, it's changed over the years. It's sometimes from younger Pinot Noir vines that we had planted here, but now all of the Moorooduc Estate vineyards are mature, except for some of the Chardonnay. We'll talk about that later. So now most of the fruit for Devil Bean Creek actually comes from the Osborne Vineyard, which is another vineyard which is down to sort of the south of us. They have Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Pinot Gris planted on their vineyard, and we've been making wine for them for quite some time. Hello, Daryl and Sue. Lovely to see you logging in, my friends from the Garden Vineyard. So yeah, the Osborne Vineyard contributes the fruit to the Devil Bean Creek Pinot Noir, and beautiful fruit it is too. So that's the story of Moorooduc Estate, Priscilla. And I came back to the family business in about 2008, 2007, 2008, in a part-time. You can see Polly running around in the background. She's trying to get herself sorted. I'm sure she'll work herself out. But yes, I came back to the family business in about 2008 and passed my Master of Wine in 2010, and came back time after that to help with the marketing and the sales, and also to get more involved in the winemaking, because I thought it was probably about time. And having done my study of wine from all around the world, I discovered that not only was this a lovely place that Mum and Dad had made, but they were actually making some world-class wine, and I hadn't had that realization until I tasted a lot of wines from other places. So that brought me back here, and now we have some beautiful wines. Hi, Kay, and Rob and Deb are here. Everyone's checking in. It's great to see you all. I'm going to have a little sip of water before I continue on. It's always important to rehydrate when you're drinking wine. My responsible service of alcohol message for today. So, Devil Bean Creek Pinot Noir. This wine, as I say, the fruit was from the Osborne Vineyard, and we don't talk about it very much here at the winery. And when you come into cellar door and do a little cellar door tasting, you often won't even see this wine, and we don't taste it. It's part of the reason for that is that we have too many wines, basically, and to do a tasting of everything that we produce would take too long, and again might not be quite as responsible as we like to be, sending you away in your car after a tasting, because no matter how hard we try, it's very hard to encourage people at cellar door to spit after tasting, and that's something that we as wine industry professionals have to get very good at, is putting wine in our mouth and then not swallowing it but getting rid of it, so that we can taste lots and lots of wine and not fall over and not kill our liver, and look after ourselves, as well as getting to remember what we've tasted, which is also very important. So Devil Bean Creek Pinot Noir, we don't taste it cellar door. And the other reason for this is that this wine has become a runaway success for us in restaurants and cafes. It's retails for $10 less a bottle than our estate wine. So the estate wine's $40. This retails for about $30. Sometimes you'll find people doing an even better price on that, but we think $30 is a pretty good deal on this wine anyway. And it makes it a really good price point when you work out the wholesale price that we're not going to go into at the moment, but makes it a really good price point for higher quality restaurants to put the wine on by the glass, and for cafes to sell it at a reasonable price, because it's getting harder and harder for restaurants and cafes to sell wine with the appropriate markup so that they can afford to run their businesses. So this wine sits at a really nice price point. It's also a wine that, as a young wine, is much more ready to drink than our estate wines or our single vineyard wines, because it has a little bit more forward fruit. It's not as complex, which means it doesn't need to unfurl as quickly as for as long as some of the other wines that we make, and it doesn't have any new oak in the wine. We don't put this wine into new oak barrels, so we get that extra layer of structure and savouriness from the oak that you see in our estate and single vineyard Pinots. Hi, Angela. Lovely to see you. And Tracy and Leon are having a glass as well. Excellent to hear. We're getting the party started. Now, I'm interested to know, has anyone got 5 friends over for the tasting tonight? Because we're in Victoria, at least we've loosened things up a little bit. We're allowed to invite a couple of people into our family homes. I have a feeling that, honestly, the cellar door and normal tasting and bars and restaurants and pubs, I don't think we're going to be able to resume that business for some time, which is very sad, but it does mean that I get to spend a few more weeks with you guys, because I have a horrible feeling that once they open up all the venues again, you're not going to be sitting at home listening to me and talking to me. You're going to be out and about again, drinking the wine in other places. But if you prove me wrong, I will keep doing this for as long as you want to come back and listen and drink with me on a Thursday night. So speaking of that, thanks, Shell. Speaking of that, I haven't tasted the wine yet. I've been rabbiting on, and we're 10 minutes in. And Craig, you just tell me to keep talking, and I'll be back here every Thursday talking to myself. It's fine. So you can see, even in this quite dark room, it's a lovely deep ruby colour. Swirls nicely in this big glass. And on the nose, I just love the nose of this wine. It's just pure cherry. It's red cherry and black cherry. It's really juicy. There's nothing getting in the way of that fruit. It's just gorgeous. There's a little bit of herbal note, but it's mostly all about those beautiful, beautiful cherry fruit. On the palate, juicy, it's crunchy, it's got that sweet fruit to it, but it's also savoury. So if you've got some of those little snacks that I've recommended, some chips maybe, some chips, crisps, but thin cut. You know, when we're talking about potato chips, I think with wine tasting, and this might be a little bit of snobism, but I think with wine tasting, plain chips are better. Salt and vinegar doesn't work with anything except for Riesling or champagne. Good with salt and vinegar chips. Try it. But with a red wine, I think plain potato chips, possibly chicken flavour if you go for that kind of thing. That's taking it a bit too far for me. But plain potato chips, salted, thin cut, because they have a better crunch to them. They're fantastic with a lovely glass of Pinot Noir. Hopefully some of you have got, fruit, cheese, apricot and almond. It's working. Good. Well, if that's all you've got in the fridge, food and wine matching between you and me is very much a personal thing. There are a lot of people throwing rules around. You can't have red wine with fish. You can't have steak with a glass of champagne. Yes, you can. You can do whatever you like, whatever makes you happy, whatever gives you pleasure. I find personally matching dark chocolate to almost any wine is really hard work, but that's okay because I like dark chocolate on its own. It's a good excuse to have a little cup of tea or something like that as well when I'm ready for my chocolate. But mushrooms. I did go down the mushroom path on the snack recommendations today, and I hope that some of you have got a little bit of, garlic and chili chips would work very well. Jeff's having some lamb kofta. Craig, Bridger. Yeah, that's probably a bit spicy, but if you can handle it. The thing about spicy food with red wine, it's really interesting. If you like spicy food and you don't mind tannin, it's not necessarily a problem. But tannin and spice sort of come together and fire and firmer when you have spicy food, and chili be hotter and more burny on your palate. So if you like that, then a little bit of spicy food can work really nicely. I'd just like to show you my fire again because Dad worked very hard on that. And look at that. Isn't that magnificent? I'll go and sit over there in a little while. And the peacock and Polly are by the door having a little chat. Hopefully a quiet tasting other wines except for the Pinot Gris and Skins. That's the whole point of the Devil Ben Creek range, is that they do age okay, but they have that long-term serious ageability of the other wines that we make. But these wines are all about delicious gluggability. I love the fact that they're just really juicy, fruity, a little bit of savouriness, nice structure, and Devil Ben Creek, in particular Pinot. I feel like I'm not giving it enough credit for what it is. It's one of the most important wines that we make because more people out there in the world drink this wine than any of our other wines. Because it's a little bit more accessible, because it's in more restaurants and wine bars, it's out there recommending, oh, Kieran, well, yeah, good lemonade for Ramadan, excellent. But maybe we need to talk about getting some Moorooduc Estate wine over to your part of the world at some stage. Maybe after the lockdowns have settled down a little bit. What was I saying? Oh yes, drinkability and just enjoy what it is. I often call it Wednesday night wine, but I call it a Wednesday. Sort of look at me slightly quizzically, and I know it's Thursday night. It's okay to drink it on Thursday night too. For me, it's almost an everyday wine, but I call it a Wednesday night because there are a lot of people out there, and I've heard that during the lockdown, this has been thrown out the window by a lot of people, but there are a lot of people out there who try and have a couple of alcohol-free days a week, and usually that's Monday and Tuesday night, which is why everyone's so grumpy on Wednesday, I reckon. And you get home on Wednesday night and you've had 3 tough days at work if you're working a Monday to Friday week, and you just think, I just want something delicious. I'm allowed to have a glass of wine tonight because I've had my alcohol-free days now. I want something delicious, and I don't want to have to think too hard about it. I don't want it to be too expensive, but I want it to be delicious because I haven't had any wine now for 3 days. So that's what this wine is. Moorooduc Estate, Devil Ben Creek. Delicious, gluggable Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night wine. Now, I had another comment. Thanks, Rob. I'm hilarious, I know. I had another comment from Queensland about standing bottles up that were old and that had sediment and needed to settle and that kind of thing. And it was a really good comment because the point was made that when wine now, Australian wine particularly, is for a wine fridge, but in your wine cellar, laying wine in screw caps down on its side is not actually the recommended thing to do. It's recommended that you store wine under screw caps standing up. And the reason for that is that we always used to lie wine on its side when we had a cork in there so that the wine wouldn't fall out of the bottle as well. But with screw caps, it shouldn't be a problem with the wine fall out of the bottle as well. But with screw caps, it shouldn't be a problem with the wine lying down unless the screw cap is not in perfect condition. If the screw cap's not in perfect condition, you can see in the bottom of the screw cap here, maybe, there's some foil. You have a look at your own personal one. That foil actually can flick up. And if that flicks up, then the wine, if it's lying down, the wine can get through there and get onto the metal. And over time, if you're aging a wine under screw cap for 10, 15 years, or even there, and get onto the metal, and over time, if you're aging a wine under screw cap for 10, 15 years, or even 8 years, that wine can abrade the metal and rust through, and then the wine falls out and the air gets in and your seal is not working. So, a cellar, wine under screw cap that you're aging for years, and you don't need a humidifier in your wine fridge either. That's the other point that was made to me by one of our customers, because the humidifier also was to keep the cork moist. We don't have corks anymore. Some people use corks. The French and the Italians still seem to be, and the Spanish seem to be fairly addicted to cork. But here in Australia, screw cap is working very well for us. Craig, what should we pay for this at a restaurant? Look, you'll find it on a lot of, it depends where you are in the country, because different parts of Australia have different markups. In Melbourne, I would see this wine on a wine list for sort of $50 to $60. Maybe a little bit less than that if they're feeling generous. Money and food, they have a tendency to mark wine prices up to try and make more margin out of. I'm getting a message saying that my connection's unstable, but hopefully it's okay again. So I hope you didn't lose me for too long then. I hope I'm back again. Food, and the better restaurants out there don't do that necessarily, but there's more and more pressure for people to mark. And I think it's going to be a really interesting time as things open up, because there's a lot of restaurants out there that have had to be closed, who are probably doing it really tough, and a lot of them are really good friends of mine, and I'm feeling their hurt. But I think that people staying at home, friends of mine, and I'm feeling their hurt. But I think that people staying at home and drinking wine. Yes, Craig, New South Wales. So I was going to say, in New South Wales, the markups are often more than so in Victoria, you'd see about maybe a 200% markup. But I wonder whether that's going to change. It might be the case that they try and make back their margins by putting wine up more. But I don't think customers are that to the future, because you've all got so used to being at home and buying wine and drinking it home and enjoying all of those luxuries. But you have to remember that when you go out to a restaurant, it's not just about the cost of the wine to the restaurant, but it's the tablecloths and it's the state every time. But also the glassware and polishing the glasses and paying for the glassware that gets broken and all of that kind of thing. It's tough because I think that there's a lot of value in these eating out experiences that we get given by restaurants that people don't think about. So don't be too critical of restaurants for marking wine up a bit, because they need to cover the costs of all the service and making the wine beautiful and the experience of drinking the wine beautiful for you in their restaurant. But if you know how much this wine costs retail and you're seeing it in a restaurant for a lot more, then I think there's going to be some questions about that from people. Rob Vertisi, what are you asking me? I'm trying to understand the difference between wine glasses. Are Riedel Pinot glasses have more of a tulip profile? What are your thoughts on the importance of wine glass? So we talked about glasses a little bit before, and we do get very. I think that the whole different shaped wine glass thing has become quite an addiction to wine enthusiasts these days, and Riedel has done a very good job of encouraging us to think that we need different shaped glasses for everything. For me, I do enjoy a Pinot glass, and you probably noticed last week that Richard and I were drinking Chardonnay out of a Pinot glass as well, and in fact, for high quality Chardonnay, for a Pinot Noir or a Chardonnay, what you want is a tulip shape that is quite at the bottom and then comes in a little bit at the top. The longer glasses that they designed for Shiraz and Cabernet, they're sort of narrower and longer, they actually directional aromas and flavours onto your palate in a different way. So that's the whole argument of the science of different shaped glasses. Put the wine onto your palate in a different way. And I find that I like this shaped glass for Pinot and Nebbiolo, by the way. If you're drinking Nebbiolo, Barolo, that works very well in this shaped glass, whereas Sangiovese doesn't. Cabernet doesn't work well in this shaped glass. But this glass is good for lots of reasons. Because it's got such a big bowl, you have to be careful not to fill it up too much, because it's very easy to drink more wine than you have to by just pouring yourself a glass and realising half the bottle's in there. But that bowl allows the wine to swirl around. It allows the aromas. It allows the air to get into the wine. It allows the aromas to get out of the wine. And it points all the smells of the Pinot Noir, which all that rose petal. Now we're getting some rose petal coming out, as well as the cherry now that it's opening up. I also have to say that I think that part of the joy of a beautiful glass is just the aesthetics of the glass. And drinking out of one of those little ISO glasses, I don't even have one to show you because we haven't used them for such a long time, is less fun. You go to a little peak restaurant, you're likely as not to get a little cafe latte glass to drink your wine out of as anything else. So it doesn't really matter, but if drinking beautiful wine out of a beautiful glass makes you happy, I think that it does allow you to smell and taste the wine better more quickly. I hope that was useful and not too rambly. I'm feeling like I'm rambling now. I'm feeling that I'm feeling the heat of the fire from behind me. So I'm going to sign off in a moment and let you all get back to your evenings. Enjoy company because there's going to be people pouring in to socialise with you again soon. So if you're anything like me, you'll be feeling a little bit nervous about sharing your space with everyone again in the near future. But it'll be nice. It'll be good to get out there again, and it'll be nice also to see you guys here in the virtual space over the next few weeks. Now, just one more thing that I'm going to remind you about is next week, and you will get an email on Monday about it, but next week we're doing the 2 mystery wines. So if you've ordered 5 bottles of something or 11 bottles of something and popped in the little message window, tasting with Kate, then I will have brought you half a dozen or a dozen bottles of wine with a mystery wine in there. Obviously, if you've already got your order, you will see what your mystery wine is already. If you want to drink it beforehand, go for it. It's your wine now. You can do whatever you like with it. If you would like, I'm planning to have a look at the wines that we've tasted over the last 6 weeks. If there's anything that you love enough to order 5 bottles or 11 bottles, I will be doing deliveries again to Melbourne and to the Mornington Peninsula next week, probably on Wednesday. If you're further afield, we will do everything we can to get it to you in time, but we're really reliant on Australia Post still at the moment, I'm sorry to say. But next week, 2 mystery wines. It's going to be really cool. If you're not indulging in either of the mystery wines, please come and join us for a drink anyway. So Craig, it's a mystery wine that we're tasting next week. The mystery wines that I've been offering in the packs of 5 or 11, if I haven't made it clear or I've faded out at the critical moment, please send me an email. I shall now. But mystery wine next week, and the following week we start tasting pack number 3, which a lot of you have already ordered. I'd say you've got next week to get hold of those wine. Until then, enjoy your Pinot. Have a lovely week. Stay safe. Don't forget your social distancing. We've still got to do that. And enjoy